A struggling student gave up her seat for an old lady unaware. Her grandson was a millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to our main character. The bus rattled through downtown on a gray Tuesday morning, rain tapping softly against the windows. The seats were full, the aisles crowded with tired faces lost in their own worries. Among them sat Maya, a 22-year-old college student clutching a stack of textbooks and a half-empty cup of gas station coffee. Her backpack was torn at one strap, her sneakers soaked through from the puddles outside. She had just finished a 7-hour shift at the diner and was heading to campus for her last class of the week. Her eyelids felt heavy, her stomach growled, but she didn't complain. The bus jerked to a stop, and an elderly woman stepped aboard, leaning on a cane. No one moved. People pretended to scroll on their phones, staring at nothing. Maya hesitated only a second before pushing herself up. "Ma'am, please, take my seat," she said, steadying the woman's hand as she sat down. The old lady smiled, wrinkles deepening around kind eyes. "You're sweet, dear. Thank you," Maya smiled back, brushing rain from her hair. "It's nothing, really. Have a good day." When the driver pulled away, Maya grabbed the overhead bar, swaying with the motion of the bus. Her legs trembled from fatigue, but her heart felt strangely light. She didn't notice the man sitting 2 rows behind, watching the exchange. He looked about 30, dressed in jeans and a gray hoodie, a baseball cap pulled low. In his hands, a phone recorded the brief moment, the young woman giving up her only seat without hesitation. The man lowered the phone, eyes thoughtful, then pocketed it. Maya didn't know it yet, but that small act of kindness would ripple far beyond this rainy morning. The bus turned past the park, splashing through puddles, and she stared out the window at the city she was trying to survive in New York, beautiful but merciless. She thought about her mom in the hospital and the bills piling up on the kitchen counter. Her part-time job barely covered tuition, and the rent was due in 3 days. She whispered under her breath, "One more week, just one more shift." The old lady beside her adjusted the scarf around her neck and glanced up. "You remind me of my granddaughter," she said softly. "Always rushing, always tired, but never losing that light in her eyes." Maya smiled faintly. "I hope she's doing better than I am," the woman chuckled. "Maybe she's watching over you right now." When the bus reached the next stop, the woman stood, balancing with her cane. Maya offered her arm again. Helping her down the steps into the drizzle, the old lady patted her hand. "You're a good girl. Take care of yourself." Then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd under a single red umbrella. Maya climbed back aboard just before the doors closed, not realizing the woman had left something behind, a soft knitted scarf folded neatly on the seat. Maya picked it up, hesitated, and tucked it into her backpack. She didn't notice the man with the cap still watching from the back, a faint smile crossing his face as the bus rolled on into the rain. That night, the rain had not stopped. The city lights blurred across the bus window as Maya rode home, her reflection faint against the glass. She pressed her forehead to the cool window, thinking about the scarf folded inside her bag. It smelled faintly of lavender, soft and clean. Nothing like her tiny apartment with its peeling wallpaper and drafty windows. When the bus reached her stop, she pulled her coat tight and walked quickly through the puddles toward her building, a tired 3-story complex on the east side of town. The stairwell smelled of old paint and instant noodles. Inside her apartment, she dropped her bag on the couch, kicked off her shoes, and sighed. The heater was broken again. She checked her phone, no new messages. Her mother's medical bills had arrived in the afternoon, another thick envelope of red numbers. She sat down, ran her hands through her damp hair, and whispered, "How am I going to do this?" The next morning, Maya woke before sunrise, eyes gritty from lack of sleep. She put on her work uniform, a white shirt, black apron, and hurried to the diner. The air smelled of coffee and fried bacon. "Morning, kid," her manager called out. "You're late again." "Sorry," Maya muttered, tying her apron. The morning rush was relentless, customers complaining, plates clattering, coffee never enough. Still, she smiled through it all. At lunch break, she sat in the corner with a cup of soup she could barely afford. She pulled the scarf from her bag, running her fingers along the threads. For a strange moment, she imagined the old woman knitting it by a window somewhere warm and quiet. She made a mental note to find her, maybe return it, though she doubted she ever could. Across town, in a tall glass building overlooking the same gray skyline, Ethan Carter stood in front of a digital screen replaying a short clip. It was the footage he had taken on the bus, the young woman offering her seat without hesitation. The image froze on her face, tired but gentle, honest. "That's her," he murmured. His assistant, Mark, frowned. "My grandmother told me someone helped her that day. She said it reminded her what kindness still looks like. I promised I would find the girl." Mark hesitated, then smiled slightly. "You are the boss. I will start checking the bus cameras." Ethan watched the city outside his window, hands in his pockets. He was the grandson of Margaret Carter, founder of the Carter Foundation and CEO of Carter Technologies. To most, he was another millionaire in a suit. But behind that title was a man who had grown up hearing his grandmother's stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Maybe that was why he could not shake the thought of the girl with the tired eyes. Later that evening, Maya finished her shift, feet aching, hair messy from the long day. She counted her tips, barely enough for groceries. As she walked home, she passed a small bookstore with a "Help Wanted" sign in the window. She paused, considering it, but knew she could not handle another job. Her phone buzzed. It was a reminder about her tuition payment, due in 3 days. Her stomach tightened. She crossed the street, nearly slipping on the wet pavement, and pulled her coat tighter. She did not notice the black SUV idling near the corner, headlights dimmed. Inside, Ethan sat quietly, holding his grandmother's scarf, now missing for 2 days. "Find her," his grandmother had told him that morning. "She gave me her seat, and in that small moment, she gave me faith again." He smiled faintly as he spotted a familiar figure walking under the streetlight, head down, backpack sagging, the same worn sneakers, the same coat. "Got you," he whispered. As Maya disappeared into her building, Ethan leaned back, the rain drumming on the windshield. He did not know what he was going to say when he met her. All he knew was that this girl had changed something in his grandmother, and maybe, just maybe, in him too. The following morning, sunlight leaked weakly through the blinds of Maya's apartment. She woke to the distant hum of the city and the smell of burnt toast from her neighbor's kitchen. For a moment she just sat there, holding her phone, scrolling through messages she would never send. Her tuition reminder blinked again on the screen, a silent countdown. She sighed, pulled on her worn sweater, and tied her hair into a messy bun. Another day, another shift. On her way out, she wrapped the old lady's scarf around her neck. It was the only thing that felt soft against the cold air. The bus stop was crowded, as usual, and she stood among strangers, clutching her coffee cup for warmth. She did not notice the black SUV parked across the street or the man inside watching her with quiet curiosity. Ethan had been there for nearly an hour, waiting, observing. When he saw her board the bus, he followed in the car, keeping a respectful distance. There was something about her that reminded him of his grandmother, strong, gentle, refusing to give up even when life kept testing her. Later that afternoon, Maya arrived at the diner, hair damp from the drizzle. The bell over the door chimed, and her coworker Carla glanced up. "Rough morning?" she asked. Maya smiled tiredly. "Just the usual." The shift was long and uneventful, until near closing. A man in a dark coat entered. He looked out of place among the worn booths and neon lights. "Table for one?" Maya asked, grabbing a menu. "Actually," he said, "I'm looking for someone named Maya." She froze, blinking. "That's me. Do I know you?" The man smiled faintly and removed his cap. "I am Ethan Carter." The name meant nothing to her, but his tone carried weight. "I believe you met my grandmother on the bus 2 days ago." Maya's eyes widened. "Your grandmother? The sweet lady with the cane?" "Yes," Ethan said. "She has not stopped talking about you. She wanted to thank you personally, but she is resting today. She asked me to find you." Maya's face flushed. "Oh, she does not have to thank me. It was nothing really." Ethan shook his head. It was not nothing to her. You reminded her of something she had started to lose faith in. He reached into his briefcase and placed a folded envelope on the table. She wanted you to have this. Maya hesitated. I cannot accept money. Please, open it, Ethan said softly. Inside was not cash, but an invitation embossed paper, bearing the elegant crest of the Carter Foundation. It read, You are invited to the Kind Hearts Scholarship Program interview, Thursday, 10 a.m. Maya stared, confused. What is this? It is an opportunity, Ethan said simply. We run a foundation that supports students who embody empathy and leadership. My grandmother personally recommended you. Maya looked down, speechless. I am not sure I deserve this. I am just a waitress trying to survive. Ethan's expression softened. That is exactly why you deserve it. You did not help her because you wanted something. You did it because it was right. The diner door opened behind them, and the cold air swept through. Maya blinked, realizing she was trembling. I do not know what to say. Say you will come, Ethan replied, standing. Thursday morning. We will be expecting you. He left a business card beside the envelope and turned toward the door. Before leaving, he paused, his gaze warm but unreadable. And by the way, he added, my grandmother said you forgot something. He nodded toward the scarf around her neck. She told me to tell you it suits you. Maya looked down, her fingers brushing the fabric. By the time she looked up, Ethan was gone. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the street glistening under the diner's neon sign. She clutched the invitation to her chest, heart racing. For the first time in months, the weight on her shoulders felt a little lighter. Somewhere deep inside, a small spark flickered hope, fragile but alive. Thursday morning arrived colder than expected. The sun had barely risen, painting the city in shades of silver and pale blue. Maya stood outside the Carter Foundation building, her breath visible in the air. The building looked intimidating: glass walls, marble floors, and a golden emblem gleaming over the entrance. She hesitated before pushing the door open, clutching her worn bag and the invitation that had kept her awake for 2 nights. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. A young receptionist greeted her with a bright smile. Good morning. You must be Miss Rivera. Mr. Carter is expecting you. Maya blinked. Ethan Carter? He is here? The receptionist nodded and gestured toward the elevator. Top floor. Conference room 3. Maya swallowed hard, thanked her, and stepped into the elevator. As it climbed, her reflection in the mirror panels looked smaller, fragile, but determined. When the doors opened, she was greeted by the quiet hum of a world she had never belonged to: people in tailored suits, glass offices, the faint click of heels on the floor. At the end of the hall, Ethan stood beside a long table, reviewing a set of documents. He looked different, in daylight calm, composed, yet approachable. Maya, he said warmly, walking toward her. I am glad you came. I almost did not, she admitted, clutching the strap of her bag. I thought maybe it was a mistake. It is not a mistake, Ethan said. My grandmother watched that video again this morning. She told me, find her purpose. So here we are. He guided her to a seat. Around the table sat 3 board members, all older, with polite but curious expressions. One of them, a woman with silver hair, leaned forward. Miss Rivera, this program is designed for students who not only need financial help, but who show leadership through compassion. Tell us why kindness matters to you. Maya froze. Her throat tightened. For a moment, all she could hear was the faint ticking of a wall clock. Then she took a breath. Because I have seen what happens when people forget it, she said quietly. When my mother got sick, I thought the world stopped caring. But then a stranger at a bus stop smiled at me, or someone held a door open when my hands were full. Tiny things, maybe. But they reminded me I was still part of something. Kindness does not need to be loud. It just needs to be real. The room fell silent for a moment. The silver-haired woman smiled softly. Ethan watched her with quiet admiration. Thank you, Miss Rivera, the woman said. That was beautifully said. After the interview, Ethan walked her to the elevator. "You did well," he said. "Better than you think." Maya shook her head. "I do not know. They all look so professional. I am just a diner waitress with student loans." Ethan smiled. "You are more than that, Maya. You remind people that goodness still exists. That is rarer than any degree." She met his gaze for a heartbeat too long before looking away, cheeks warm. "Thank you, Mr. Carter." "Ethan," he corrected gently. "Just Ethan." She smiled faintly. "Okay, Ethan." As the elevator doors opened, she turned to him. "Your grandmother, is she feeling better?" "She is," he said. "And she would love to see you again. Maybe for tea this weekend?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. "I would like that." When she stepped out onto the street, the wind tugged at her hair, and she let out a shaky laugh. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Upstairs, Ethan watched from the window as she walked away, scarf fluttering behind her. He did not realize he was smiling until his assistant entered. "Sir, should I file her interview results?" Mark asked. Ethan turned from the window. "No need," he said quietly. "I already know the answer." 2 days later, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her tiny apartment, smoothing the wrinkles from her only decent dress. The fabric was plain, pale blue, and a little too thin for the weather, but it was clean. She checked the time, then wrapped the knitted scarf around her neck before heading out. Ethan's driver had texted her the address for afternoon tea at the Carter residence, and even reading it had felt surreal. The house sat on the edge of the city, hidden behind tall gates and ivy-covered walls. When she arrived, a maid opened the door with a polite smile and led her through a marble hallway that smelled faintly of lemon polish and fresh flowers. At the end of the corridor, in a sunlit room filled with books and framed photographs, sat the old lady from the bus, Margaret Carter, wrapped in a cream shawl, her eyes bright with recognition. "There she is," Margaret said, smiling. "My good Samaritan." Maya laughed softly, suddenly shy. "It is so good to see you again, ma'am." "Oh, please, call me Margaret," the old woman said, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Sit down, dear. You have caused quite the stir in my household." Maya blinked. "I have?" "Indeed," Margaret chuckled. "Ever since that day on the bus, my grandson will not stop talking about you. He insists you are the very definition of the kindness we try to teach through our foundation." Maya's cheeks flushed. "I only did what anyone else would have done." "That is where you are wrong, child," Margaret said, pouring tea into delicate china cups. "Not everyone stands up when they are tired. Not everyone gives when they have little left to give." Ethan entered then, setting his phone aside as he smiled at the sight of them. "Grandmother? Are you giving her one of your speeches again?" "Someone has to," Margaret replied, smirking. Ethan turned to Maya. "I am glad you came. How are your classes?" "Still standing," she said with a grin. "Barely." He laughed quietly. "Well, I have good news. You were officially selected for the Kind Heart Scholarship. Full tuition, living stipend, and part-time work with the foundation if you want it." Maya froze, her cup trembling slightly. "You are serious?" "Completely," Ethan said. "You earned it, but there must be so many others more qualified." "Maya," Margaret interrupted gently, "the world needs more hearts like yours, not just more resumes." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. "I do not know how to thank you." Ethan leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "Just keep being who you are. That will be enough." The afternoon passed in soft conversation. Margaret shared stories about her late husband and the early days of the foundation, while Ethan occasionally added a teasing remark that made both women laugh. For the first time in months, Maya felt a warmth she had almost forgotten, a sense of family, of belonging somewhere she did not have to pretend. As she prepared to leave, Margaret handed her a small box tied with a ribbon. "Open it when you get home," she said. "Consider it a welcome gift." Outside, the sky glowed amber as the sun began to set. Ethan walked her to the car, his hands tucked into his coat pockets. "You know," he said, glancing sideways at her, "you made quite an impression on my grandmother." "I think she made one on me too," Maya said softly. They stood there a moment longer, the air cool and still. "Thank you, Ethan," she added, "for everything." "You do not have to thank me," he said. "You earned this, and something tells me this is only the beginning." As the car pulled away, Ethan watched her go, his reflection faint in the window. Back inside, Margaret smiled knowingly from her chair. "Careful, my dear," she said when he returned. "If you are not already, you are going to fall for that girl." Ethan looked down, his lips curving slightly. "Maybe I already have." Weeks passed, and life began to change in ways Maya could hardly believe. Her tuition was paid. Her mother's hospital bills were covered through a special grant from the Carter Foundation, and for the first time, she could study without constant fear of debt. Every morning, she went to class. And every afternoon, she reported to the foundation office downtown, where she worked as an assistant for the outreach team. It was not glamorous, but it mattered. She helped organize charity drives, sorted scholarship applications, and wrote letters to donors. She felt useful, seen, and part of something bigger. Ethan often stopped by her desk to check on her progress. Their conversations started short and formal, but slowly grew more personal. He asked about her classes, her mother, her favorite coffee, and sometimes, when the office was quiet, they shared stories about their pasts. One evening, they stayed late finishing a report for an upcoming event. The office lights dimmed as the cleaning staff left, and the city glowed outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. "You should go home, Maya," Ethan said, glancing at his watch. "It is almost 10. "I will just finish this section," she replied, typing quickly. "You always say that," he teased. She smiled without looking up. "And you always stay to make sure I do not fall asleep on the keyboard." "Maybe I just enjoy the company," he said. The air shifted slightly, quiet but charged. Maya stopped typing, her heart fluttering for reasons she did not want to name. She closed the laptop and stood. "All done. See? You can relax now." Ethan grinned, then walked her to the elevator. "Are you sure you are not exhausted?" he asked as they stepped inside. "I have been exhausted since freshman year," she joked, leaning against the wall. "But this kind of tired feels good." When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, he held them for her. "Let me drive you home," he offered. She shook her head. "You do not have to." "I know," he said softly, "but I want to." The ride was quiet, filled with the gentle hum of the car and the sound of rain against the windshield. When they stopped in front of her building, Maya hesitated before unbuckling her seatbelt. "Ethan," she said quietly, "thank you for believing in me." He met her gaze. "No, Maya, thank you for reminding me why I built all this in the first place." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she smiled, whispered goodnight, and ran through the rain to the entrance. Ethan watched until she disappeared inside. The next morning, Maya arrived at work to find the office buzzing with excitement. Margaret Carter was hosting her annual charity gala, and everyone was preparing. "Big night," Carla, her coworker, said. "You are on the guest list." Maya nearly dropped her coffee. "Me? At the gala?" "Ethan's orders," Carla said with a wink. That evening, Maya stood in front of her mirror again, this time in a simple black dress the foundation had provided. Her mother, still recovering but smiling from her hospital bed, video called her to wish her luck. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," her mother said. "Your father would be so proud." Maya's eyes stung. "I hope so." At the gala, chandeliers glittered overhead, and a string quartet played softly. Ethan spotted her near the entrance and froze for a second. She looked radiant yet humble, the same girl from the bus, but stronger now. He walked toward her, offering his hand. "You made it." "I almost did not recognize myself," she admitted, laughing nervously. "You should," he said. "This is who you were meant to be." Together, they walked into the grand hall, unaware that tonight would mark the turning point neither of them had expected. The ballroom shimmered with golden light, filled with laughter, crystal glasses, and the soft murmur of classical music. Maya could hardly believe she was standing there among politicians, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists whose names she had only ever read in magazines. She felt out of place, yet Ethan's calm presence beside her made it easier to breathe. "Relax," he whispered with a small smile. "You belong here more than half the people in this room." She chuckled nervously. "I doubt that. Trust me," he said quietly. "Kindness never goes out of style." The evening began with speeches about the foundation's achievements. Margaret Carter, regal in a silver gown, took the stage to polite applause. Tonight, she said. "We celebrate not wealth, but heart. We celebrate those who give when they have little, and those who lead through compassion." As she spoke, her eyes found Maya in the crowd, and she smiled. Maya felt her throat tighten. It was overwhelming: the lights, the attention, the warmth. When the applause ended, Ethan led her to a quieter corner near the balcony. "Are you doing all right?" he asked. She nodded, gazing at the glittering skyline beyond the glass doors. "I never thought my life would bring me here." "Maybe life was just waiting for you to catch up," he said softly. Before she could reply, a voice called out behind them. "Ethan Carter," a tall man in a tuxedo said, extending his hand. "It has been too long." Ethan smiled politely. "Good evening, Richard." "And who is this?" Richard asked, his eyes flicking toward Maya. "A new intern?" His tone was sharp, dismissive. Maya felt her cheeks burn. Ethan straightened slightly. "This is Maya Rivera," he said evenly. "One of our scholarship recipients." Richard chuckled under his breath. "Ah, philanthropy. Always good for public image, huh?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "She earned her place here." Richard smirked and raised his glass. "Of course she did." Then he walked away, leaving a chill in the air. Maya stared at the floor. "I am sorry," she murmured. "I should not have come." "Hey," Ethan said gently, tilting her chin up. "Do not ever apologize for being where you deserve to be." His voice was calm, but his eyes held anger, the kind that comes from seeing unfairness too many times. Before Maya could respond, Margaret approached, cane tapping lightly on the marble floor. "What did that fool say to you?" she asked, reading their faces instantly. "Nothing worth repeating," Ethan replied. Margaret turned to Maya and placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "Do not let people like him dim your light, dear. The higher you rise, the smaller their hearts will look." Maya smiled faintly. "Thank you." Later that night, after the gala ended, Maya stood alone on the balcony, looking out over the city lights. The air was cool, carrying the scent of rain. She wrapped her arms around herself, lost in thought. She did not hear Ethan approach until he spoke. "I wanted to apologize for earlier," he said. "You did not deserve that." She shook her head. "You already defended me. That is more than enough. Still," he said quietly, "I wish people saw what I see when I look at you." Maya turned to face him, her heart racing. "And what do you see, Ethan?" He hesitated, then stepped closer, his voice low. "I see someone who reminds me that compassion is not weakness. Someone who makes this world feel human again." For a long moment they stood there in silence, the city stretching endlessly below. Maya smiled softly. "You should tell your grandmother that. She would like that line." Ethan laughed, the tension easing. "She probably wrote it first." They lingered there until the music inside faded, and only the sound of the rain remained. It was a moment neither of them could explain, but both would remember. What neither knew yet was that this fragile calm was only the beginning, and soon the truth behind their connection would test everything they thought they knew about trust, class, and love. The following morning, headlines spread across social media about the Carter Foundation Gala. Photos of the guests filled the internet, but one image caught Maya off guard, a candid shot of her and Ethan on the balcony, standing close, smiling. The caption read, "Carter airs new mystery woman?" She froze in front of her laptop, heart pounding. Within hours, her inbox flooded with messages. Some congratulated her. Others accused her of using the scholarship to get close to Ethan. She turned off her phone and buried her face in her hands. By noon, she was at the office, hoping to talk to Ethan before the rumors grew worse. But when she walked in, whispers followed her. People stared, pretending not to. Her supervisor, Carla, met her near the elevator. "Maya, you should go home," she said gently. "Things are tense right now." "Tense?" Maya repeated. "Because of a photo?" "It is not just a photo," Carla said quietly. "Richard Blake went to the press this morning. He is claiming you got the scholarship through favoritism." Maya's chest tightened. "That is not true." "I know," Carla said, "but the media loves drama, and Richard is trying to hurt Ethan's reputation. You are caught in the middle." Maya shook her head. "No, I cannot hide. I need to explain." She pushed past the whispers and walked straight to Ethan's office. He looked up when she entered, eyes tired, phone buzzing on the desk. Maya, he said, standing. I was about to call you. I saw the news, she said, voice trembling. You have to tell them the truth. I will, he replied. But we need to be careful. Anything I say could make it worse. Richard is already using this to question my leadership. So you will let them think I am some gold digger? She snapped, tears stinging her eyes. Maya, that is not what I worked for everything I have. I never asked you for anything, Ethan. I believed in what your foundation stood for, and now it feels like all of that means nothing. He stepped closer. It means everything, but I need time to fix this. Time, she said bitterly. The internet will not wait. She turned before he could answer, her vision blurring as she rushed out of the building. That night, she sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through comments online. Strangers called her names, speculated about her life, her worth. Her mother tried to comfort her over the phone, but Maya barely heard the words. She felt small again, like the girl on the bus who no one noticed except for an old lady with kind eyes. She whispered to herself, maybe I do not belong in his world after all. The next morning, Ethan stood in front of his board of directors, facing Richard across the polished table. Enough of this, Ethan said firmly. Maya Rivera earned that scholarship. The accusations are baseless. Richard smirked. Then prove it. Fire her. Show the media you are impartial. Ethan's hands clenched. I will not destroy an innocent woman to protect an image. Margaret, seated at the end of the table, struck her cane once against the floor. Gentlemen, she said, her voice sharp, we built this foundation to honor compassion, not crush it. If any of you think differently, you may leave right now. The room fell silent. Richard looked away. After the meeting, Margaret turned to her grandson. You know what you have to do, she said softly. That afternoon, Ethan called a press conference. Cameras flashed as he stepped to the podium. The woman in those photos, he began, is not a scandal. She is a reminder of why this foundation exists. Maya Rivera gave her seat to my grandmother on a rainy day when no one else would. That single act of kindness led to everything we stand for today. If helping her is wrong, then I am proud to be guilty. The room erupted in questions, but Ethan walked away, leaving the world to decide what kind of story they wanted to believe. For 2 days after the press conference, Maya stayed away from the foundation, too overwhelmed to face the noise. She had seen the broadcast live, standing in her small kitchen with the television volume turned low, her heart racing as Ethan defended her in front of the world. His words echoed in her head. If helping her is wrong, then I am proud to be guilty. She replayed them again and again, wondering how one sentence could make her feel both seen and speechless. But the internet had begun to change its tune. The video of the old bus scene resurfaced. Ethan had released it with his grandmother's permission. Viewers watched the moment when Maya stood up for the elderly woman while others stayed seated. And suddenly the narrative shifted. Hashtags that once mocked her name now praised her. Comment sections filled with messages of support. Kindness comes full circle, one post read, and it went viral. On the third morning, Maya finally gathered her courage and returned to the foundation. The elevator ride felt endless. When the doors opened, she found the entire staff clapping softly as she stepped inside. Carla ran up to hug her. You are trending worldwide, she whispered, and for the right reasons this time. Maya laughed through tears. Ethan appeared from his office, relief flooding his face. You came back, he said simply. Of course I did, she replied. This is where I belong. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. My grandmother would like to see you. She has something planned. Later that afternoon, Maya arrived at the foundation's main hall, where Margaret Carter sat near a podium, the same scarf draped across her lap. Reporters had gathered again, but this time the air buzzed with warmth instead of judgment. Margaret gestured for Maya to join her. Everyone, she began. This young woman reminded us all that kindness does not need witnesses to matter. It only needs courage. Today, the Carter Foundation is proud to announce the launch of a new scholarship, the Maya Rivera Fellowship for Compassionate Leadership. The crowd applauded, cameras flashing. Maya stood frozen, speechless, until Margaret took her hand and whispered, "You earned this, dear. Never forget that." After the ceremony, Ethan found her on the same balcony where they had once stood in silence weeks before. The city stretched below, bathed in golden sunset light. "How does it feel?" he asked softly. "To have a scholarship named after you?" She laughed, still in disbelief. "Unreal. I just gave someone my seat on a bus." "Sometimes," Ethan said, "one small act can change an entire world." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something wrapped in a handkerchief, the old knitted scarf. "My grandmother wanted you to have this back," he said, "but I think it belongs to both of you now." Maya took it carefully, her fingers brushing his. "It started everything," she murmured, "and maybe it will keep reminding us why we do what we do." Ethan hesitated, then smiled gently. "Maya, there is something else I wanted to ask." Her heart fluttered. "What is it?" He looked into her eyes, sincerity radiating in every word. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? No press, no gala, no headlines, just us." She grinned. "I thought you would never ask." They both laughed, the kind of laugh that comes after too many storms. As they stood there, the city lights began to glow, reflecting in the glass around them. Ethan reached for her hand, and she did not pull away. Somewhere behind them, Margaret watched quietly from the doorway, smiling like someone who already knew how this story would end. Months later, the foundation's walls displayed a framed photograph, the same bus where it all began, and beneath it, the words engraved in gold. "Kindness is not an act. It is a legacy."